are afraid to admit that they maybe made a mistake. So it's better to be overly defensive and just say, well, I'm voting for him again. I just... The way he designed it, and the fact that he did kind of a spiritual take without making it a...
Ever feel like you're the last sane person in a world gone mad? Well, you're not alone. Clint Eastwood feels the same way about Hollywood. He's been called a dinosaur, a relic, even a bigot. But here's the thing, Eastwood's not backing down.
One is you ask a question, and two is you ask another question. This kind of certainty comes but just once in a lifetime.
Every gun makes its own tune.
In fact, he's doubling down, and in this video, we're gonna show you why his stance matters to all of us who value free speech and authentic storytelling. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Remember when movies didn't tiptoe around feelings? When characters could be rough around the edges without a Twitter mob losing their minds? That was the world Clint Eastwood conquered, and he's not about to let it go without a fight. Eastwood burst onto the scene with those iconic spaghetti westerns. The man with no name didn't need a tragic backstory or a sensitivity coach. He was just a badass with a squint that could make grown men wet themselves. Then came Dirty Harry, dropping one-liners and 44 Magnum rounds with equal precision. These weren't just movies, they were cultural earthquakes. But while Eastwood was busy being, well, Eastwood, Hollywood started changing. Suddenly every script needed a focus group. Every character had to be relatable, likable, and about as edgy as a marshmallow.
For no particular reason, or they have just a small amount of information, and they just run off with that.
It was like someone decided movies should be more about hand-holding than storytelling. Did Eastwood roll over? Hell no. He doubled down. Gran Torino had people clutching their pearls over its raw portrayal of race relations. American Sniper got called war propaganda by the latte-sipping crowd. But you know what? People showed up in droves. They were hungry for stories that didn't treat them like fragile children. Eastwood once said, "I don't believe in pessimism. If something doesn't come up the way you want, forge ahead. If you think it's going to rain, it will." That's not just a quote, it's his whole damn philosophy. While other directors were busy apologizing for imaginary offenses, Clint was making the movies he wanted to make. Of course, the backlash came.
Trolling. It expresses embarrassment or insecurity. It's not that they're laughing at you or anything.
You people are nuts.
Critics called him outdated, tone deaf, even a dinosaur. Social media lit up with hot takes from people who probably think John Wayne is a toilet paper brand. Award shows started giving him the cold shoulder. It was like Hollywood was trying to put Grandpa in a home.
Correctness, kissing up. That's the kiss-ass generation. I'm sorry I used that word. Generation we're in right now. Everybody's walking on eggshells.
But here's the kicker. People kept watching. The Mule made bank. Richard Jewell got people talking. Even at 90+ years old, Eastwood was proving that authentic storytelling trumps woke posturing every single time. So yeah, Clint Eastwood might be old school. He might ruffle some feathers, but in a sea of cookie-cutter content, he's standing tall. And let me tell you, this was just the warm-up. The real showdown between Eastwood and woke Hollywood, that's a whole other story, and it's about to get wild. So you thought the culture wars in Hollywood were intense before? Well, Clint Eastwood just walked onto the battlefield, and he's not here to play nice. The guy who made Dirty Harry look like a softie is now taking on an enemy that fights with hashtags and think pieces.
Are afraid to admit that they maybe made a mistake, so it's better to be overly defensive and just say, well, I'm voting for him again.
And Hollywood, they're losing their minds. See, while Clint was busy making movies that actually said something, Hollywood decided to go all in on this woke culture thing.
And from relatives you can gain a lot, but they all said sort of the same thing. He was definitely...
Suddenly, every script needs a diversity consultant. Every character has to check all the right boxes, and heaven forbid you make a joke that might offend someone's pet rock. It's like they forgot movies are supposed to be, you know, entertaining. But Eastwood, he's not having any of it. Take Gran Torino, for example. This movie doesn't just dip its toes into controversial waters. It does a cannonball right into the deep end. You've got a grumpy old combat vet dealing with his prejudices against his Hmong neighbors. It's raw, it's real, and it sure as hell doesn't come with a trigger warning.
It was a very uplifting story in a way. Could have been a terrible tragedy. What do I care about? It's not the younger generation. It's the older generation now. The younger generation.
And let me tell you, the PC police are coming for Clint with everything they've got. They're digging up stuff he said back when bell-bottoms were cool, trying to cancel the uncancelable. Get this, they're even bringing up comments he made at the 1973 Oscars.
We're all concerned with the human dilemma and our confrontation with the fates. Human beings engulfed in a lunatic dictatorship.
That's right, they're mad about something that happened before most of them were even born.
I don't know if I should present this award on behalf of all the cowboys shot in all the John Ford westerns over the years.
But here's the kicker. While they're screaming on Twitter, Eastwood's still packing theaters. His movies are making bank and people are actually talking about them. You know, having real conversations about tough topics instead of just virtue signaling online.
The way he designed it, and the fact that he did kind of a spiritual take without making it a...
And get this, it's not just the old timers who are on Clint's side. There's a whole bunch of younger filmmakers who are looking at Eastwood and thinking, now that's how you tell a story. They're sick of all this hand-holding and sanitized storytelling. They want to make movies that actually say something, that don't treat the audience like a bunch of fragile snowflakes. So what does all this mean for the future of cinema? Well, it looks like the tide might be turning. People are starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, being offended isn't the worst thing in the world.
I like playing the character because he's a guy who's old school, he's from another generation,
That sometimes a little discomfort leads to real growth, and in a world where everyone's trying to play it safe, Eastwood's proving that there's still an audience for filmmakers who've got the guts to tell it like it is. So here's the deal. Clint Eastwood just schooled Hollywood on what people really want. While everyone else is busy trying not to offend anyone, he's out there making movies that actually say something. And guess what? People are loving it. Look, we all know Hollywood's been playing it safe. They're so scared of upsetting someone that they've forgotten how to tell a good story. But Eastwood, he's proving that you don't need to water everything down to be successful. His movies are making bank and they're getting people talking about real issues. You know what's crazy? Some of these younger filmmakers are looking at Clint and thinking, that's how it's done. They're sick of all this sanitized nonsense.
To get some sort of relief that the truth is put out there.
They want to make movies that punch you in the gut, not pat you on the head. So maybe, just maybe, being a dinosaur isn't such a bad thing after all. In a world full of copycats, Eastwood's showing us that there's still room for someone who's not afraid to ruffle a few feathers. And honestly, that's exactly what cinema needs right now.